And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 18th installment of the Nest podcast. This will also be our final installment of the 2019-2020 school year. And, we want to start number 18 by saying thank you. Thank you to all of you out there who have watched the podcast, who have invested your precious time to spend with us for just a few short minutes here and there. And a special thank you to my best friend and my partner in crime, Mr. Joe Panchella, for continuing to drive the West effort, enthusiasm, and intensity, and to be a part of this thing. And then obviously, none of this would be possible without the magician, the magic man, the greatest of all time at what he does. And that's Mr. Ray Kirshner on the other side. And we started right here in the basement at Morrell's Ironworks and had to improvise, adapt, and overcome, if you will, in order to make this program continue to happen from a distance. And Mr. Kirshner has made that happen. So to Mr. Kirshner, a major tip of the cap and thank you. And to Joe, man, I look forward to these moments more than you know. So thank you, brother.
And thank you, Mr. Morrell, for really leading this thing, and for Mr. Kirshner making this thing possible and taking it to a whole nother level. I can't imagine these last 2 months without the podcast personally, for myself and selfishly, in a sense of it's really provided a sense of comfort, a sense of normal, and a way to reach out, whether you listen or not. It was powerful and moving, and to hear from people from all different walks of life who have come across them. We're just happy we could contribute something during these trying times and during these tough times. And we hope to continue to bring it back after the summer and after some end of the year celebrations. But it's truly been a pleasure to be a part of this.
And we've had not only our students reach out to us, via email many times, and appreciate all that, and our family members and adults, and certainly teachers throughout the school district. I've also had administrators from other schools and athletic directors from other schools contact and say, hey, you guys are doing a great job, and we would love to do something like you guys are doing. And so what we have is very, very special, and we appreciate everyone who's been able to make this possible. And today we're going to do a couple things in the last one. We want to keep it tight and somewhat brief, but want to talk a little bit about a major piece to what we believe is success in compartmentalization. And we also want to take a few minutes to say goodbye to the class of 2020. And Joe, when I think about compartmentalization, to me, this is one of the key factors that make the most elite people elite. And that's the ability to create barriers or literally compartments within the psyche to place different aspects of your life and be able to access them at will, and also to be able to put them aside and put them away and suppress them at will when you need to. You have a professional life, you have a personal life, you have a social life, you have your familial life. We all have a lot going on in our lives. And if it's your goal to be successful, and not just as a student athlete, not just as a teacher or a husband or administrator or wife or whatever, to be a successful human being, I think it's critical that you have an ability to take each of those areas, place them in different areas of your psyche, and bring them to the forefront. We talk about being where your feet are. If I have an issue at school and work, I can't bring that home and walk into the door and take my jacket off and say to my 3 daughters and my wife, hey, I'm not your dad right now. I'm not your husband right now, because I can't get past what I was just dealing with. So that's going to run my life. Successful people have the ability to take those moments, and as soon as you step foot in your house, to say, all right, my focus is now on my family. What happened at school is going to be locked away till a later date when I'm prepared to deal with it, and vice versa. So compartmentalization to me is a real key in ultimate success as a person.
And I think you truly, and I'm not just saying this to you, you set this example. You teach a lot of us how to go about this, and I know you use it as examples in coaching and with your athletes. When something goes wrong in your life, if it can't be fixed right then, you have such innate ability to set it aside, not to forget about it, but to set it aside so that you can focus and give your best to the students, to your peers, to your colleagues during that moment, and then always being sure to revisit whatever you set aside to make sure you address it. It's something I'm terrible at, to be honest with you, and actually, that this topic made me feel a little vulnerable, as I do carry my emotions on my sleeve, and when something does go wrong, especially a few years ago, I'd have a hard time letting that go and focusing where I needed to focus my attention. As I continued to look into this topic, it can be very beneficial to use this type of technique in athletics, in life, and in everything that you do. But at the same time, it can be detrimental if you never revisit what you set aside, if you never revisit the hard thing that you put in the back of your mind. Those things will build up, and you'll eventually break down, and it'll be so overwhelming that the compartments will actually blend together, and you could lose a little sense of what's real and what's not, what's important, what's not important. But it was very, very powerful to read more about it from a psychological standpoint to a real life standpoint, how amazingly beneficial it can be to keep your focus where it's needed in a given time and understand when you can go back and revisit some of these other things.
And when I think about where we're at right now with COVID and quarantine and our students who are, at home having to recreate some kind of structure for themselves, I would guesstimate that the students that are having success during this time are able to compartmentalize. When you're in the school building, the bell rings, you have 4 minutes, you go to the next class, you're within those walls, you're physically compartmentalized in a room where you can focus. All around you on the walls are math facts or history facts, or you're constantly reminded about where you are. So it's a little bit easier to focus. Whereas when you're at home, now you're surrounded by a plethora of different things, and it's on you to be able to not look at your 6 or 7 class schedule as one big ball of work. Instead, to have the ability to say, okay, from this time to this time, I'm focused on this assignment in this class, and then I'm going to put that math assignment when it's complete in the back of my head, or maybe I'm going to put it on hold for a minute, and I'm going to go outside and get some exercise, and I'm going to focus on that, and then I'm going to come back and take care of my younger sibling, but then I'm not going to forget, like you just said, come back to that math assignment later. That's a phenomenal challenge that many of our kids at their age right now have not had to face. We've kind of had the opportunity to learn that as we've grown older, but it's certainly adversity that our kids have to face today. But I think that compartmentalization in the way they handle their day and the structure of their day is going to determine a lot of the success they do or do not have during this time period.
And it's never been more important than it is right now, especially with the news we've gotten a few weeks ago that school won't return this year, that spring sports have officially been canceled, that a lot of our celebrations may turn into virtual celebrations. For most seniors especially, that news and information has been thrown to the front of everything else. But they do have assignments to complete. They do need to wrap up this school year strong. So you do need to set aside, and a lot of them are uncontrollables, as you've always said, that you need to, they can be there and you can feel them and you can feel emotional, but you can't let that run everything that you have going right now, because as you've said several times, life's going to continue on after this, and you're going to jump into the workforce, the military, a college setting, a job that you have lined up. Those things are going to happen. And if you don't have those in your sights right now as well, you're going to get lost, and you're going to set yourself back even further as you move forward and as things loosen up here, which, eventually they're going to, and you need to be prepared. So if you're constantly just soaking in the sadness and focusing on that, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities that are coming, to you very soon.
And that kind of takes us to the class of 2020 and our seniors, Joe. A very special class. I know, every class is special in its own way. And we just want to take a couple minutes here as we wrap up the 2019-2020 podcast series and number 18 here to address them one last time. And, this is a class I'm going to turn over to you here in a minute, Joe. But when I think about this class, man, so deep, such a deep class of good kids and quality people, and a group that really cared about themselves and about the community. and no one looking for the limelight. I never felt in their 4 years in the building that this was a class where, there was not a lot of selfishness in this group. I know we see things from the athletic side, but in general, this class just felt like a great group of human beings who are going to go off into the world and do good things. And so let's just take a couple minutes to say our goodbyes and to send this crew off into the future. Joe, what are some thoughts, ideas that you have for the class of 2020?
And like you said, in our 7 years, we've seen 7 graduating classes, and each one brings their own uniqueness to West Effort High School, and this group was no exception to that. The way they supported each other, I completely agree with you that it wasn't very individual based. There wasn't the most talented athletes we've ever seen in our 7 years, or the greatest, academic students of all time. But I think the balance that the class of 2020 created was very powerful. The way they supported each other, the way they wanted to be there for each other. And again, I know you and I focus more on athletics, but athletics speaks to how they operate in the classroom and in their friendships and outside of the high school. It's a group that certainly supported each other, and there wasn't tons of drama that was being brought up or this or that. The class truly loved being around each other. And I think as this quarantine has happened, you've seen that become even more prevalent, and how strong they feel about each other. And they'll now have the greatest appreciation they've ever had for each other because of these trying times. And as crazy as it sounds, this quarantine will be some of their greatest memories of how they continue to stay in touch and communicate. And what I would challenge them to do is use these 2 or 3 months where we've all undergone stress and disappointment and emotion, and use that to bond these friendships forever, to understand that there's nothing that can beat you, and that you guys will always bring this up, that, yeah, we worked through that. We're a class unlike any other because we were faced with a challenge that the world had to face, and we overcame it together, and we will continue to fight through that, until their last days. I can just already picture a 5-year reunion, a 10-year reunion, and what it will mean to the class of 2020. It's more powerful than you can actually wrap your mind around. And as this thing does settle down, they're going to see, how tight-knit of a group they really did become. And in terms of them, I hope I can see as many of them this summer as I can before they head off on their different adventures. But please know I'm an email away. I'm a phone call away. My heart hurts for you, but at the same time, there's so much love in my heart for you, and the joy that I feel and the excitement that I feel already knowing where some of you are headed is just amazing. You've really, again, embodied what West Effort and the community is all about, and we know you'll continue to make the community proud and make each other proud. And just continue to fight, continue to push through, continue to persevere, and know that, yes, this was a tough time, but the greatest years of your life are ahead of you, and you've got a lot to look forward to.
I would challenge the class of 2020 to wake up. And I know oftentimes when somebody says, "Hey, wake up," you think that it's a negative connotation. But over the last 2.5 months, we've been sucked into this focus on adversity of the COVID disaster and what we've had to deal with. And a new dawn has arisen as you graduate. COVID couldn't stop your graduation from high school. COVID can't stop, and quarantine can't stop the blank slate that the class of 2020 is presented with the day after they wake up from the graduation from high school, because they are provided with endless opportunity to put on that blank canvas whatever they want, and a vast array of utensils to create an art form that maybe this world has never seen before. This world needs leaders, and it's not going to come from my generation, from the generations before me. the leaders that are going to bring us out of what we're dealing with right now is the class of 2020. Because you're the ones that are going to be dealing with this as you go off to college or to the military or into the workforce and begin to create the newest chapter of your life and work yourself up to make your life something special and worth living. So you are the ones that need to see your future now. We have spent enough time as human beings focused on the negative and focused and worried and concerned, and it's time to move forward. We talked about compartmentalization. You need to take the last 2.5 months of stress and sadness and loss that you have all suffered at the end of your senior year. And you need to put that and store that away in a lockbox and somewhere in your brain where it won't interfere with the potential that you have in front of you to attack life. You know, I would use this graduation more than any other graduation that we've experienced since we've been back, Joe, as a rebirth or a reawakening of what's important, what really matters, and what it takes to be successful in life. We're all a little bit tougher. We're all a little bit harder. We're all a little bit more knowledgeable about the important things that it takes to be successful in life now. And class of 2020, you know that firsthand. And if you don't take that and do something with it, then you're going to sleepwalk through life. This is a moment to wake up. This is a moment to wake up and say, I'm in control of what happens next, regardless of the situation around me and the uncontrollables. This is an opportunity for you to wake up and say, this is what I can control. This is my plan on how I'm going to control it. And this is how I'm going to execute it on this blank canvas that I'm staring at in front of me. I am incredibly excited to see what this class does moving forward, coming out of the most adverse situation any class has ever faced. And that's a special opportunity in and of itself. Now, was it hard to get to this moment? Heck yeah. We're still not out of it. Yes, it's hard. And the next few weeks, as you wrap up the end of your school year, it's still going to be hard. But to have this opportunity to come out of that adversity and make your mark on this world is an opportunity that not many classes have had before you. So I'm begging the class of 2020, wake up right now and set the tone for the remainder of your life. If you're going to college, don't just go to college for 4 years. Go and do something special at that university or college that you're going to attend. If you're going to the workforce, don't just go into the workforce to earn a paycheck. Right? Go into that workforce to be the best that's ever been at that job and work your way up the ladder to be a leader in that program. If you're going into the military, make our military better and stronger and protect this country. There are so many opportunities that are staring you in the face of unknown times that this world's looking for leaders, and West Effort's got them in the class of 2020. So best of luck, class of 2020. You will be missed. Yes, you are one of the most special classes that we have ever had, but I am incredibly excited to hear about the things that you're going to do to take us into the new dawn, post-COVID, post one of the worst atrocities in terms of what we've seen in our lifetime, and take us into a new day and a new dawn and a new chapter of all of our lives. You'll be the leaders in that new chapter. So again, thank you, Mr. Panchella, for being such an incredible force in my life and in all of our lives, and certainly on this podcast. Thank you to Mr. Kirshner for producing this incredible opportunity that we've had to continue to share the West Effort message with everybody and anybody that's interested in listening. And thank you to all of you out there who have watched and have listened, and we can't wait to get back at it in the summertime. Hopefully we'll be back here in Morrell's Ironworks together, doing the podcast, sharing some fun moments and times as we work ourselves out of this thing together. But that wraps up the Nest Podcast 2019, 2020, and episode 18. Best of luck, class of 2020, and we will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.